Thank you, Kate, and thank you very much to Nicholas Reed and the team for having us here. So I spoke at a conference in Sydney last week, so I think I'm on day 11 on the road. Looking forward to going home to Western Australia tomorrow, so if my voice is cracking, please forgive me. This rebuild of the story, it's a new pack that I'm presenting here, was really predicated. I was on, funny enough, again, day 10 of a road show a couple of months ago in Melbourne in a cold hotel room. Received a email from a shareholder saying, right, you've put out the study. What's your direction? What's next? What are you going to do? And I got to thinking about, actually wrote a sort of fairly considered response, as I always do, and sort of got to thinking about how we sort of explain who we are as a team, because who we are as a team, what the project is, and how we go. So over the next 10 minutes, I'm going to try and keep this quite high level. I'll point towards areas where you can come and get more information if you want to talk geology, if you want to go to some more in-depth videos, but really just give you a feel for who we are. Every year as we stand on stage, these companies, we present what you want to see as things getting moved forwards. So it's been a great year. I'll just put your attention to the disclaimers. We're overachieving on these this year because we have two, as we've just put out a scoping study, but please do read those, also available in the front of the scoping study. Corporately, we listed in 2020, in October 2020. We've kept things very tight, just 140 million shares on issue. $5.9 million in the bank as at the last quarterly, so a fairly healthy cash balance for a company with an enterprise value of roughly $40 million. The chairman is our second largest shareholder, and I've said this many times on stage, but it's an incredibly supportive board. We've got Colin Moorhead, one of Australia's most experienced and senior geologists, the former head of the Oz IMM on our board, and he's incredibly helpful to myself, and Robin and Paul, feasibility and study and development people. So a lot of support there from the board. Fantastic, diverse team as well. Really workaholic, problem-solving team that's been working together for many years now. And our CFO, Coda, is in the audience and on our booth as well. As I said, we listed our primary asset, the Elizabeth Creek Copper Project, in October 2020, and we listed this asset coming from, it's an incredible area. In an industry where the term Tier 1 gets thrown around like confetti, this is in one of the world's truly Tier 1 jurisdictions in South Australia. Our neighbor now, Oz Minerals BHP, have been exploring, these two companies have been exploring for decades and mining for decades in the area. And this is very much in elephant country as far as copper for both sedimentary and IOCG copper is concerned. But we're listed with some challenges. We only had 250,000 tons of copper and cobalt. The metallurgy was challenging. There wasn't enough scale to take this forward. And we had a problem child open pit at Windabout. So we lent on our DNA as a company. We, as I said, are problem solvers at heart, and we love to drive growth through exploration. So within 14 months from listing, we had delivered a resource at Emmy Bluff. According to a recent Oz Minerals presentation, this is the 6th largest primary copper deposit in Australia, undeveloped, and the 11th largest overall. High grade, large tonnage, underground copper. As I said, delivered from an exploration hypothesis within 14 months. We got to work on the metallurgy, and we lent into one of the great strengths of this project, how well the cobalt floats. It's a carolite. And we developed a hydromet process to take this down to final grade battery grade cobalt sulfate, as well as copper cathode. Windabout, we developed a new highly selective mining plan to lean into the grade on that deposit. And Emmy Bluff, we retained consultants familiar with underground shallow dipping ore bodies similar to what you see in the Zambian copper belt. It was a challenge. We rose to the challenge. We've now delivered the scoping study, delivered that mine plan, and had it multiple times peer reviewed as well. One of the challenges of an underground ore body is that you've got to get down there. It takes time, it takes money. So one of the great strengths of this project are the two open pits. And look at those grades. 1.26 million tons at 1.42% copper, 1.87% copper equivalent in the starter pit. Windabout, our problem child, the lowest grade in the portfolio, still over 1% primary copper, 1.7% when you take into account the very substantial cobalt grades in this deposit. And then Emmy Bluff, 1.42% primary copper, 1.8% copper equivalent. Grade is always king in these projects, and this gives us room to work, room to optimize. The scoping study delivered in March 2023 allowed us to put numbers around this project for the first time. This is a good start. As I will talk to over the next 5 minutes or so, there is an enormous amount left in the tank where we have optimization both here and significant exploration beyond this. But it is a good start. 570 mil NPV, 26.5% IRR, one of the highest in its peer groups in copper in Australia. Pre-production capex of just $277 million and an RSC of $2.19 a pound. This is a very strong project. 25,000 tons of copper per annum from just 2.5 million tons going into the mill because of that high grade. 1,000 tons of cobalt, battery grade, integral to the decarbonization of the world. I imagine you're here and listening to this because you're looking for exposure to copper. And this provides exceptional exposure to copper. Not only as the copper price increases, do the financial results increase significantly. But we also have upside in terms of continued optimization on both the capex and the opex. A very strong risk profile. As I said before, tier 1 jurisdiction, one of the best places to be developing a mine in the world, South Australia. Very low heritage, very low environmental risk. Access to the nation's greenest electricity grid and that cobalt byproduct, which immediately opens up the worlds of friendshoring, critical minerals development grants, and ESG-friendly financing. So as I move on to exploration, please bear in mind the timeline on the previous slides, as we've taken what is essentially a disparate group of small assets, delivered a go-forward case through exploration, delivered a strong scoping study through problem solving, through metallurgy, through mine planning. And we move on to the upside, the very, very real high reward IOCG exploration. This area has been explored for IOCGs and mined as well for over 100 years. ME Bluff, our flagship deposit, was known about at the time of the discovery of Olympic Dam. Through a significant, highly ranked, value-assessed target generation project, we drilled our first drill hole in June 2021 into the deeper IOCG mineralization. This is offset by about 800 meters, depending on where you measure from the main resource, and about 400 meters further below the ground. And this resulted in almost immediate success. The first drill hole, 200 meters of alteration, 50 meters of visual sulfides, over 35 meters of which assaying to more than 1% copper from 800 meters. Yes, it's deep, but at Oak Dam West, some of their best grades coming from over 1,000 meters. And look at the size of the prize here. Huge IOCG mineralization in an area famed for large deposits. There are 4 primary IOCGs on the Gawler Craton, and they're now all owned by BHP. We're surrounded on all sides by majors, and following the acquisition of Oz Minerals, BHP to our east as well. We had some great grades. We had some really good early success. We drilled 23,000 meters. It was the most intense, stressful, exciting year of my life. 27 meters there at over 2%, but with 2 stacked loads adding to about 69 meters for over 1.5% copper. A couple of other intercepts well above 2.5% and 3.5% copper over meaningful thicknesses, peak grades over 15%. But what does this all mean? We're looking for scale. What we found is grade comparable, in fact, far higher than the mined grades and the resource grades of the local IOCGs. But we haven't managed to get this together yet into a coherent whole for a go-forward case. The mineralization above it, absolutely, that stacks together the copper cobalt. But the mineralization below in ME Bluff, in ME IOCG, we're still working on this. So what did we do? We lent on our problem-solving DNA again. When exploration gets tough, the tough get to doing geophysical surveys, the tough get to really working through the exploration model. If you know you don't have all the answers, you work through them, you start to understand things in much greater detail. 23,000 meters of drilling goes a long way to giving you that support when you come to geophysics. And so over the last year, it's really been about work. It's about understanding. It's about trying to explain the geological model and understanding where this mineralization is coming from, because it is coming from somewhere, and there is a significant accumulation of copper in the system. Right now, we have targets ready to go. We have an exploration model which not only better explains the mineralization that we've hit, it better explains the relationship between the two. If you'd like to see a great example or a video of this by our exploration manager, Matt Weber, it's available on our YouTube channel. He uses tissue boxes to explain the various systems. So we like to keep things fairly low cost and high impact at Coda. It is worth a look. I believe these are some of the most exciting targets in copper anywhere on the planet. We have a foundational asset in the copper cobalt. We have enormous upside in the IOCG. I'm really looking forward to getting these drilled. So over the next couple of minutes or so, I'm going to explain to you how we plan to do that. 5.9 million in the bank. All of our feasibility programs are currently fully funded. So continuing to work and leverage the copper cobalt, the foundational asset, over 1 million tons of contained copper equivalent in resources. We're working on mechanical underground cutting. This has the potential to increase the size of the reserve, or the production target, the mineable resource. It has the potential to be faster and more selective and to reduce costs. XRF ore sorting as an add-on to this, again, a major upside here, and we're advancing the critical path. It's not exciting work on the critical path, moving through approvals, moving through all of the various surveys, but companies that fund projects like ours, companies that acquire projects like ours, want to see this has been done professionally, and so we are advancing this. I've spoken to the incredible exploration. Geophysical work, building on the foundation of drilling, giving us targets ready to go right in the heart of IOCG country, where all 4 of the other IOCGs are owned by BHP. New targets for the sedimentary copper cobalt as well. Emmy Bluff, the subject of the scoping study, has a significant opportunity to be expanded through continued exploration. And business development, we are likely to be the first company on the Gawler Craton to have a downstream processing plant capable of dealing with the cobalt that comes with these sedimentary copper mineralization. And so the opportunity to acquire stranded assets continues to present itself. The plan, we are currently in early stage, I will emphasize, but early stage discussions with a number of parties. I find sometimes a scoping study doesn't necessarily light a fire under your share price. I don't fully understand why, and in fact, if anyone wants to give me their thoughts at the booth afterwards, I'd be fascinated as well. But the reality is, what it is it's a calling card. It tells the world what you've got, and it starts to hang a sign saying, we are open for discussions. If you're looking for exposure to copper as an end user, as a private equity group, as a miner, this is what it looks like. Please come and talk to us. And that is what we have done. So we are focusing on commercialization structures. These structures include advancing this organically ourselves. We have ability to raise money. We continue to work through phenomenal targets which get people excited, and we have the foundational assets as well. So with that, I'll finish as I always do in saying, please come and talk to us. We love talking to shareholders. We love answering questions. This is a huge passion. Kudzai is just the same as me. He loves this world and loves what we do, and we're always happy to talk. info@codaminerals.com. We've also just implemented a new system called Investor Hub. If you go onto our announcements page, you'll see an interactive page. You'll be able to see me deliver this speech last week in Sydney, and this one will be up there soon as well. We have an active YouTube page, and again, info@codaminerals.com. We do answer every single email, and if you'd like a call, send us your number and a convenient time, we'll call you. So with that, thank you very much, and look forward to talking to everyone after this. Thanks.